We'll call the November 16th City Council meeting to order. Commissioner Smith, if you give us the prayer, pledge, and fact of the day, please, sir.
You would assume the attitude of prayer. Our Father God, we come in once again to thank you for the many blessings that thou bestowed upon us. Thank you for this opportunity for us to be servants of this great city. We ask that all of our decisions be pleasing and acceptable in your sight. We thank you, Father, how you blessed us through the present storm. And now we ask that you continue to lead us and guide us as only you can. In thy Son, Jesus' name, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fact of the day. On November 13th, 1982, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial is dedicated in Washington, D.C. The long-awaited memorial was a simple V-shaped black granite wall inscribed with the names of 57,939 Americans who died in the conflict, arranged in order of death, not rank, as was common in other memorials. The designer of the memorial was Maya Lin, a Yale University architect student who entered a nationwide competition to create a design for the monument. Fact of the day.
Okay. Commissioner Becker.
So just to introduce, because I don't have a microphone on me directly, but I've got my mom, Margaret Becker, that's going to swear me in and do the oath of office, and then my beautiful wife and three daughters, Kelly, Madeline, Emily, and Lucy. So, and then up on the screen, you'll notice, I think it's important that when I take this oath of office, again, it's to my commitment to you as an elected official is to make sure that we honor the org chart that we have published within our budget. Whereas the citizens of our city, and more importantly, the frontline employees of our city are the most important people here in the city of Apopka, because without the frontline employees that service our population, and without the citizens that elect us to be their representatives, this wouldn't be possible. So I just want to make sure that you all know my commitment to you all as I take this oath.
I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States
the Constitution and government of the United States
and the state of Florida,
and the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties upon which
that I will well and faithfully perform the duties upon which
I am now about to enter,
I am now about to enter,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Thank you.
Everybody stay right there. This is your honor.
I forgot to mention, and I'm so glad that former Commissioner Doug Bankston's here this evening, now Representative Doug Bankston. So thank you for being here tonight and seeing this through. And there's a lot of people in this room, my Aunt Barb and Uncle Millard, that are here, and a lot of family and friends that I wouldn't be here today without your help and support. So I thank you again. Looking forward to it.
Okay. Approval of the minutes. Got minutes in front of you. Any changes, additions, subtractions? If not, look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Becker. Second by Commissioner Velasquez. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Agenda review, Edward.
Mayor, there is one correction. Item 3 under public hearing, it says first reading in your packet. It's actually a second reading. All of the documents are correct. It's just a scrivener's error on the front page. So it will be a second reading, not a first reading. That's the only change.
Super. Thank you, Edward. Okay. Victoria, any public comment?
Representative Doug Bankston.
And I have to lower this. Oh, right here. All right, well, obviously, I just can't get enough, had to come back. But no, seriously, it's exciting to pass that baton, and I'm very much appreciative to the people of the city and our district. And I just wanted to say and bring my greetings to you, and I'm excited to work together. To me, I want to make 39 shine. And, one of the main focuses, I'll be sworn in on Tuesday, and so we're going up this weekend, and very excited about that. And I'll tell you, up there, you've left a lot of golden footprints. Everybody up there is like, hey, we really like your mayor down there. So it's awesome. I know we're going to be able to work together to get some things done. I'm really excited about that. I want to hit the ground running. I'm going to take my family for a little bit of vacation, much needed vacation right after this, and then we're going to hit the ground running right after Thanksgiving holidays. And so, again, we've got some time before we get to setting the budget there, but my two main focuses is going to be appropriation and legislation. And so the appropriation, I've been setting up meetings with different municipalities, but obviously, Apopka has my heart, and just really exciting at the opportunities of what we can get done here. And we already have two special sessions. One I know is going to be called in December, dealing with our insurance crisis, and that's something that's a big one for me. Now, I'm told as a freshman, I don't have as many opportunities. I have to, just kind of get in line, wait my turn a little bit. But I said, well, I didn't come up here for a hat with a beanie, and a little propeller on it. But we're going to work together to get some things done. And, that, of course, next will be dealing with our storms. And I did have opportunity to go down with a delegation to Fort Myers, and it is unbelievable devastation there. And so we're just excited to work together. And of course, we didn't see Nicole having such a big punch and being a Category 1, but we see what happened with the surge. So some different things that we're going to deal with at the state level, but I'm very much looking forward to, and again, just asking each of you as we approach those things, what fits best for Apopka. And I really want to try and bring economic development, growth, jobs for us down this area. So I'll be focusing on those things. Obviously, government doesn't create it, but we can create the environment that will really help it grow. So just know that I'm working just as hard on that side, but I just feel like we're doing it together. And I just want to say thank you for the time that I got to share and work together there. And it doesn't quit, it just goes to another level. So I'll be that seat at the table, and we'll make sure our voice is heard up there. So again, thank you. And thank you to the citizens.
Thank you, Representative.
Mr. Dennis Newt.
Dennis New, 105 West Magnolia Street, Apopka. First, welcome back, Commissioner Becker. I've stood here many times since the beginning of the year with a vast array of issues. First, I'd like to remind you all that you're elected to represent the voters of Apopka, not rule them. Today, I was going to talk about a recall vote again, but that can wait, as support gathers with the timeline being in April. At the end of the last meeting, the mayor distributed a sheet he presented as a city timeline with the code enforcement issues on my home. I obtained a copy and have many questions. First being, why is it presented on a timeline does not match the public information that I obtained from the police department? Why does the letter presented on behalf of the city say the Apopka voice reporter who worked on my opponent's campaign? It's kind of funny. I didn't realize the city proper had political opponents. Anyway, I have the CD with the timeline, and it only reinforces the lack of trust that I and many others have in this administration. The mayor seems to believe that I come here because of code enforcement issues, and nothing could be further from the truth. I come here because I love this city and have issues with the malfeasance involved in the management of the city and its various departments. I come here because of the injustice the harassment, and the subterfuge involved in a family member's property by people in this city administration. I come here because of information proven to be untrue has permeated this city. First was the city reserves were depleted by the previous admin. Second was the candidate would work for half salary, then played the system to double his pay, and now has stuck an $8,000 a year pay raise into the budget, while the commission and taxpayers were distracted by the death of a firefighter and safety issues at the fire department. I come here because now the city will pay a consulting firm for a second study on why firefighter Duran died. Paying a firm for a study is like paying for a survey. If M&M's pays the bill, M&M's wins the survey. Are you doing the study for absolution of where the blame lies? The state fire marshal's report was very clear. I'm sure the NIOSH report will be even clearer. I come here because the city has outdated infrastructure, possibly dangerous water mains, inadequate roadways, the lack of sidewalks, lack of proper planning in regards to stormwater runoff. We have flooding issues all over town, not caused by the hurricane, but by poorly designed runoff systems. Flooded lakes, polluted lakes, and endangering the citizens and their property. I come here because the mayor, after the last meeting, had the audacity to threaten a good woman with being banned from the city council meetings. I come here to say that this is not a court. It used to be a basketball court when it was the gymnasium. I broke my leg about right there playing basketball when I worked for the fire department. This is a public forum. In closing, I'd like to remind you all again that you're here to represent the taxpayers, not the corporate greed consuming the city with overbuilding. It's time for a building moratorium. We did it for dollar stores. We can do it for all building until the infrastructure catches up.
Sylvester Hall.
Good evening, American Commissioners. I'm kind of under the weather a little bit, so you're going to have to bear with me, please. Commissioner Becker, a welcome sight. Welcome back. Welcome back. That's all I can say. Welcome back. The last time I was here, the last meeting, some things happened at the end of one of the conversations that I was having, and when I was told to sit like I was a dog. And so I'm gonna just reiterate what I had talked about earlier, and then for something like that to happen, when I get up to do speaking again and I'm told to sit like I'm a dog, it bothers me and it disturbs me. But here again, I'm not gonna come. I come to you tonight mere humble, not on bended knees. I come to you humble because it's time for change. I remember I told you one time. I said, Mary, after one of the city council meetings, I said, man, I'm gonna make you love me. That went over your head, but your quote was, you gotta give me something first. Love is free. Love is free. And in America, it's time for us to move on when it comes to racism. It's time for us to move on. In America, we are culturally conditioned to believe that white is superior, black is inferior. And that manifestation of the cultural conditioning is that black people are undervalued, underestimated, and marginalized. It's not a racist statement. It's a fact of life. We all know the history of racism. My thing is that history is still in a lot of us. That history still lurks in our heart. And I come to you today to ask you to change your heart. We know that laws don't change heart, only love does. Only God and love can change your heart. And so that's what I'm asking the city of Apopka, that's what I'm asking for the state of Florida, and that's what I'm asking for this country. It's time for us to start loving each other. As a black man, when I hear my former president and my candidate for president again, say, make America great. I look at myself and I ask the question, when was America great? Was America great when I was in bondage as a slave? And so these things are just thrown out there. And we all just go about our daily business like nothing is happening. It's wrong, and it needs to change. Critical race theory. CRT is not taught in any elementary school, middle, or high school in America. But you hear it brandished all the time. Well, I'm gonna do away with critical race theory. As a black man, how you think it make me feel when you don't want to know about my history? You don't want to teach my history. How you think it make me feel as a black man? Again, I own 2 businesses. I've been married for 37 years. I have 4 beautiful kids. I'm a veteran of 21 years. And I won't repeat the quote that I said last time, Mary. But how you think it make me feel as a black man? The people in Ukraine are still dying for democracy. Will that be America? Would that be America tomorrow? When we look at something and we see a beautiful lady, and some of us may see the old lady, but we all can see that it's a lady, or is it a woman? And that's where we need to be in this country. There should be limits that we don't cross. We should have a moral standard that we don't cross as individuals. And that should start at the city level. So, Mary, that's what I'm asking you. Please change your heart. And I said these things many times before. They matter. Thank you.
Leroy Bell.
Leroy Bell, 2308 Blue Meadows Court, Apopka, Florida. Well, unlike Sylvester, he's a little up under the weather, but he shouldn't feel bad. Apopka is up under the weather also. But it seems like we got a glimmer of hope. We got Commissioner Kyle Becker back. Regardless if you agree with him or disagree with him, he's gonna be a man that's gonna give you his best always, and I thank you for that. It's troubling to find this place over here, Clear Lake, the way it's flooding. My community is right across the street, and the rain have brought sand and stuff all the way back down in the drainage ditches. I seen the street sweeper out there about a week ago. I tried to stop this guy to go down the street to sweep the street. He disappeared like a fart in the wind. It's time for the citizens to start to be listening to. I know 16 years ago that Raymond Brothers closed his circus because in 2016, we America elected one of the biggest clowns that it was. And we see that from the state, congressional, all the way down to our city, we have a circus. And it's time for people to start listening to the citizens instead of the rubber stamps, the good old boys, the builders. In 2018, when I ran for city council, I said, we need to have financial stability. We need to fix our infrastructure for the growth. Everybody in that class said the same thing. But then there's people that was in that class is standing up. But then also we got people in that class just a rubber stamp to whatever the owner wants. And it don't make any sense. But with that, thank you back. We're glad to have you back.
Albert McKinney.
Good evening, Albert McKibbe, 603 Golden Gem Road. Welcome back, Mr. Becker. Today, I'm here to talk about Parkview Preserve, Phase 1 of a 282-home development situated midway along Golden Gem Road, less than 75 feet west of Mid-Florida Materials Recycling Plant, and just several hundred feet east of a depression that developed on Highway 429 in 2017. Golden Gem Road has recently become a shortcut for numerous other developments in close proximity, adding to the problems from the ever-prevalent use of the road by heavy commercial trucks. The police chief and the sheriff's department have raised concerns for public safety. This road does not meet the specifications that are required for the traffic imposed on it. The planning department is aware of this, however, they continue to allow selective development in the area, the latest to build 3,000 homes. Orange County, who are responsible for the road, have no documented plans to upgrade it. How much inconvenience will be caused to the residents when it's brought up to standard? What are the current implications with respect to planning and zoning? Could the city be sued if a fatal accident occurs because the road is unfit to service the developments they have passed for it? Why were the developers of Parkview Preserve not made to comply with the same conditions as enforced on Mid-Florida Materials with respect to upgrading their access to the property? Why did city engineers continuously fail to oversee the conditions at that site, despite being aware of environmental concerns being reported to both them and the Environmental Protection Agency? Why allow a housing development directly opposite a waste dump due to operate for another 20 years? Why permit planning for 282 homes on a road that cannot sustain it? In order to form an opinion, one would require to be familiar with the history of this development. Until recently, the property, a little over 80 acres of woodlands, which was stripped of trees and mined for clay, was then annexed to its adjacent property of 10 acres, which was part of Kelly Park Exchange. Upon being annexed, it was allowed an increased planning density. Is there any relevance to the fact that the property was purchased and developed by Contraro Holdings, who listed Jose A. Contraro as a director? Is it just that Mr. Contraro was a successful real estate attorney, or did planning and zoning give consideration to the fact that Jose A. Contraro was a city commissioner in Orange County involved in planning and zoning and already had prior knowledge of what developments were going to be proposed in this area? Is money being made by those with prior knowledge or information sharing and manipulating real estate transactions? I would expect city administrators and employees to declare an interest and abstain from votes or recommendations in any planning or policy where it might appear they have a vested interest. I question the sanity of what is happening on Golden Gem Road. We have twice been refused planning to develop homes on 20 acres, which by form-based code will allow for 40 homes at a density of 2 homes per acre. We are requesting an increase of only 25 homes so we can move forward with the sale of this property, which is no longer fit for our purpose. Parkview Preserve, the property adjacent to us, which was annexed, now has potential for 5 homes per acre. Since all the sewage and infrastructure was put in earlier this year directly in front of our property, it is almost incomprehensible why at the last city meeting we were told the city needed 4,000 more homes in the area to justify another new school, yet we cannot be considered for a mere 25 extra homes in an area under extreme development. Bearing in mind the application to develop the property is not a new one and predates the 3,000 homes. Is it just coincidence the previous owner of the land, which was proposed 3,000 homes, was subject to foreclosure and now the new owners have planning consent? How many of these developers and contractors are making local campaign contribution? I believe the facts I stated are accurate. Most are public record. Our city commissioners do not have an enviable task. They have to discern what is best for public interest based on the facts supplied by the city. I have no reason to question their integrity. I would simply request that they use their oversight to hold people accountable. To that end, I am requesting that anyone in its administration who has a vested interest or was at some point previously involved in brokering or helping Rochelle Holdings with the terms and conditions of sale for that property at the end of Golden Gem Road.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Declare an interest.
If you'll just hand that off to the clerk, we'll be able to put it in the record. Thank you.
Yeah. When this beeps and they're continuing to speak,
Yeah.
I can't hear them. Is there somewhere where we can just
If you
stop it for a
hand it to the
moment?
clerk, She'll put that in the record. Yeah.
Thank you.
All
Can you
right.
make a copy? for
Vic-
us?
Victoria, anybody else?
Yes.
Okay.
Michael Duran.
Thank you, sir.
I have mine. Yes, thank you.
I'm Michael Duran, 11504 Alma Court, Claremont. I just came here tonight just to bring you guys up to date. I think everybody knows that we're bringing the Clydesdales to Claremont. We had the opportunity to meet with the Parks Director, and everybody seems to be excited about this to happen, and we put some advertising out, what I gave you guys tonight. Megan was able to create with her husband, just did an absolutely beautiful job. And we've had the opportunity to put some of this stuff out tonight to some of the businesses around Apopka. In the next couple of weeks, we're really going to pound the city and just pollute everybody with this advertisement, just to let everybody know what we're doing. So right now, we're going to have 8 Clydesdales come out with a hitch. We're looking at setting stage on South Orange Avenue or South Street, I think it is, just to the side of the Kitland Nelson Park. And I really encourage everybody to pass the word. This is going to be a grand event, backing right up to the Christmas tree ceremony, lighting of the tree. So it's going to be an event to see. Get out there early. You'll be able to see the horses come out of the trailers, see them get harnessed up and hitched up. We're working with the Apopka Fire Department, and we'll do like a little escort. And so it should be pretty grand. Just kind of want to give you guys an idea of what we're doing. We shared on several social media sites. And then Megan is yelling at me that also, we are doing a raffle. So on back of the table tents and the flyer, Mr. Mayor, that I gave you, there's a QR.
Okay.
So the raffle is $10. Normally what happens is whoever gets to ride on the hitch, it's an honorary invite. Normally it would be someone like the mayor, maybe the police chief, somebody of, of power, somebody deserving. And what we feel that we want to do is sell the raffle tickets for $10, and the winner will have the opportunity to ride on the hitch. So it is definitely an honor to be invited to do that. The money that we are collecting from that, 100% of that is going to be donated into the Armando Borjas Foundation, the scholarship, every penny. Please look at some of the things that we've shared. We've got some other links that we're also selling Austin Strong t-shirts, the one that I'm wearing right now. And again, 100% of the proceeds to that also will go to the Apopka Fire Station. So keep your eye out for advertisements on social media. I hope that the city will also, maybe put a banner up in, I think you guys got a community board up in the City Hall.
Well, no, we don't have we got a community board, but yeah, we've also got the digital signs.
Yeah. So anywhere we could put that out. Megan and I were out today. I'll go real fast. Megan and I were out today, and we just got really positive feedback. Everybody's excited about it, and so are we. So, and I hope you guys are too. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
And just in case someone was watching that at home, you accidentally said Claremont at the beginning. I saw Jim perk up in the back. It is Apopka for those watching at home.
That it? Okay. All right. Consent agenda. We have 8 consent agenda items. Does anybody need to pull any of those?
Just number 2, where you have authorized the mayor to execute subdivision settlement participation form for opiate litigation between the state of Florida. If you can just give a little kind of update of what that
Michael, you
means
wanna-
and.
Well, the settlement form, this is not the first one that's been presented on consent. Every opioid litigation case, we've had a settlement form. What that form does is it authorizes, in our case, the city of Apopka, to participate in the settlement, the disbursement of the settlement funds. During my report tonight, I'll give you a summary of so far those cases that have settled. The state has already begun to do the allocation of the funds, and I have a current update as to what are the approximate funds that the city of Apopka will obtain. This is the latest case that the state has settled, and this one is with Walmart. So we need to have this. We need to have this form, and the form is identical to the ones we've done for Walgreens, Teva, Janssen. It's the same form. It's just we're the city, we're the representatives. We're approving to participate in the distribution and allocation of funds. That's all. That's all this form is.
Oh, thank you for that explanation. Okay.
Good?
Yep.
Okay. All right, look for a motion to approve the 8 consent agenda items.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Velasquez.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Next up, Edward, you have the honor to represent somebody for our finance team.
So Mayor, Commissioners, I'm excited to bring to you our recommendation and appointment for our Finance Director. As you know, I have been in contact with all of you. You had her phone number, so you had an opportunity. If you had an opportunity to reach out to her, you were able to do that. Blanche Sherman is her name. And if you notice by her resume, she's very well qualified. She brings a ton of experience to the city of Apopka from all facets, from utilities, transportation experience, and ample finance experience, accounting and finance experience. So I could go through her resume. It's lengthy. We don't have all night to go through it. I'm excited to bring her on with our team. She's a very good team player. I have some prior knowledge. I've worked with her in the past, believe it or not, very small amount in the very beginning when I was the finance director here. Our CNG station came from Lynx, and she, at the time, worked at Lynx, and so we worked, Apopka and Lynx worked a deal where we purchased their CNG tanks, which we currently use today for our CNG vehicles. So I think she has some great partnerships with other agencies that will also be a big help for us. So I'm going to give her the mic and let her
And
take some questions.
she's coming back from North Carolina, and she has a home right here in unincorporated Apopka, so it's not like she's going far. So it's great to have her back home for sure.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Commissioners. I appreciate this opportunity to come back home. It is great. I am literally down the street across Clark-on-Ocoee Road. As Mr. Bass mentioned, I do have a great deal of experience in city government, county government, transportation, aviation. It's been a while. It's been a journey. It's been a great experience as well. So I am very grateful for this opportunity. I look forward to working with each and every one of you. I also look forward to bringing, good financial sound practices, and building whatever you need to build in regards to reserves or anything that you need to have done from a financial perspective.
All right, any questions for Blanche?
No, I mean, it took me a while to read your your resume. So welcome. You are very well qualified, and we welcome you to the city of Apopka. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to kind of reach out to you, but I know where you're at. So usually I like to make personal visits. So welcome. Welcome to the city of Apopka, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Mr. Beck?
Yeah, welcome, Ms. Sherman. I don't know whose resume is longer, yours or Deodat's. I do recall
Yeah.
Reverend Deodat. Is he here
No.
this evening?
He's not here today.
I remember his being quite lengthy, but I mean, from a qualification standpoint, obviously, there's no concern from my part. I just want to be transparent with you in terms of my expectation, and that's something that we struggled in the past is just full transparency of our real-time financial position. Again, in government, we tend to look at our financials during budget season, but it's knowing what's happening month over month over month, that we're not waiting until budget season again the next year to understand where we need to kind of pivot or reallocate funds, things like that. So my full expectation is going to be back on that monthly management reporting. We started to do a little bit under previous finance directors, but it kind of went away. And then two, on top of that, is just really our full accounting of our reserve balances within banks, whether it's allocated for impact fees or general fund expenditures, things like that. I think we should have a full accounting every single month because as a board, it just helps us make quicker decisions as we're within these chambers if we know exactly what we're dealing with. So I just want to be fully transparent there. But
Thank you.
Yeah, your resume is great.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smith.
And I want to say welcome as well. It's great to have someone with your experience to come on board to help guide and direct our city as we continue to progress and move forward in the direction. And so we're here to support you in any way that we can. Welcome to the city of Apopka.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Nesta.
Yeah, to echo what everyone already said, welcome. We look forward to working with you and definitely see what you bring to our city and step up our game a little bit. So we're excited for it.
Do the best I can.
Yes, ma'am.
We're excited. You start
On December 5th.
December the 5th.
I thought you were going to say tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. I got lots of questions.
Gonna wrap up a few things and she'll be back on December the 5th. So good. Well, with that, just need a motion from Commissioner to approve her.
Sure.
Got a motion by Commissioner Velasquez to
Yes,
name
so
Ms.
moved.
Sherman the new finance director for City of Apopka.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay.
Welcome.
Thanks for coming. Don't, that guy right back, don't let him spend any of our money though. Yes, that Parks and Rec guy back there. Be careful. Okay, next up, Kelly Park Crossing Development Agreement.
Good evening, Jean Sanchez with the Planning and Zoning Division. This is a request to approve the Kelly Park Crossings Development Agreement. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. The applicant is requesting the approval of the development agreement detailing the obligations of both the developer and the city and specifying standards and conditions that will govern the development of Kelly Park Crossings project. If you recall, the master plan was recently approved for the Kelly Park Crossings. It memorializes the DA current code allowances for density bonus. Those density bonus outlined under the DA are actually codified under section R1A and C of the KPI form-based code, in which developments that include a vertical mix of residential and commercial or office may be entitled to the maximum density and intensity allowed with the bonus and an additional floor for every floor used for non-residential use. The second section states that it entitles them the development to one additional floor for each floor of parking garage if located below or above the residential, commercial, or office space. The DA also includes construction timelines of common area and infrastructure improvements, as well as the minor design modifications related to crosswalks and setbacks for vehicle station use specifically. There is, however, a minor change in the DA. It's a change that's apart from your packet under the default section that I would leave for the applicant to explain and elaborate to you. Otherwise, the recommended motion is to approve the Kelly Park Crossings development agreement. Tara Tedrow with Lowndes will now elaborate on the minor change.
Where's the minor change?
She's gonna bring that to you.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much.
You can raise it if you need to. Jean's a
A
little
little bit.
Is that it?
challenged.
Thank you. Tara Tedrow, Lowndes Law, 215 North Yola Drive, Orlando, Florida. The change that's proposed before you is really just a Scrivener's error on our part. The intent was always that in the event of a default, there would be certain parties responsible for exercising self-help rights to ensure that the project as contemplated and approved would actually be developed timely so that you don't have half-built projects, infrastructure that was started but never completed. So we added in there that in addition to the already known lender, because of the magnitude of this project, in the event there are other lenders in the future that want the right and the ability to exercise self-help and step in the event of a default, we just put that language in there to make sure it was crystal clear. So that's the only change other than what you have already in the DA in your packet tonight. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions you have. Most of what's in that DA is standard form that's either been approved for similar projects. It's much more condensed than many other DAs. And we have a separate transportation development agreement that will come back before you as requested by your Public Works Department for us to remove all provisions as it relates to transportation and have that dealt with separately.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Tedrow?
Let us read through this real quick.
And I'll just ask a couple of questions, whether the applicant wants to answer it or staff. But Section 5, under the city, when we're talking about cost estimates, when we say the city has the right to approve, who does that approving? Is that staff or does that come back to council for that cost estimate approval? So if they decide to go above and beyond on the infrastructure, it's on page 73.
I believe that refers to the upsizing of utilities, and so that would be reviewed by Public Services.
So staff would make that
Yes,
final
sir.
decision?
Yes,
Do you
sir.
all have just guardrails in terms of how much you all would feel comfortable approving if it were not to come back to council? I'm going to put it this way. You don't have to come up here. If it got to a certain volume or amount, and if that amount was material, you would bring that back to council, would you not?
Yes, so Commissioner Becker, welcome back. Vladimir Simonovsky, Public Services Department. What is in this agreement right now is basically just the length of where the utilities are going to be, right? We don't know what the current cost is going to be, and we don't know it. We'll see, maybe this will be constructed in a year from now, maybe 2 years from now. At that time, we will determine, and basically what we are evaluating is the difference in the cost for material only for upsizing,
Sure.
right?
Okay, yeah.
And we're doing this with a lot of other.
Yeah. And just in section 6 too, and maybe the applicant can speak to this one, the school capacity, you all are under an agreement that's already been approved on file with Orange County Public Schools as it relates to this property as it stands anyways. You're not adding anything to it right now at this stage that would cause that to be out of compliance for what OCPS already has on the books. Is that correct?
Correct. So there is already, and attached to the agreement is that capacity enhancement agreement that's been on the books for quite some time with Orange County that allocates a certain number of units that have already been accounted for, and costs for mitigation also accounted for in that agreement that need to be paid on a per unit basis. In the event that at the time we go to pull permits, that the capacity reservation that we're seeking is not available at the county, there are protocols in place that Orange County Public Schools have set that we would then have to follow to mitigate for anything above and beyond that CEA that's already in place.
Okay, because obviously that's a point of interest. I mean,
Of course.
the gentleman that spoke earlier about transportation, education capacity is obviously other top of mind type of an item. So section 16B, I just find that interesting and funny. I don't know if anybody else did. That the cow and calf operation would remain in effect until such construction starts on the property. I just found that funny.
We have cows out there, so, we weren't planning on taking them away just yet.
Right. And then the only other one, and again, I'm assuming for section 21, when we talk about minor amendments and adjustments, I'm sure there's a legal term for that when we say minor. To me, it's a subjective statement, but I'm assuming that there's kind of a joint, from a city perspective, from an applicant perspective, what constitutes minor.
Well, it is defined in the paragraph. The minor is those which do not materially affect or modify the project and are typical of developments of this type.
Yeah,
So
I struggle with those words, but yeah, I mean,
Right.
if everybody's aligned with that.
It's a threshold there to determine, I guess. If we believe that such a modification is beyond a minor, I mean, we can always come back and amend the agreement. And any amendments to this development agreement do have to come back to City Council for approval.
Okay. And then the last point I would make is, because I know it's top of mind with people, and rightfully so, and it came up during the Planning Commission, talking about transportation aspect of things. And within the plan or developers agreement, within the exhibits, obviously there's going to be improvements to Kelly Park Road in terms of ingress, egress on certain sections, FE, Sadler. The point of contention was Golden Gem. And the gentleman that was speaking earlier too brought up a good point is, it's a county road, but county should bring it up to standards, even, outside of capacity increase. It needs to come up to standards in terms of just general usage. But again, I think that comes and you said that there's going to be a transportation developers agreement forthcoming. Correct. And I'll table my comments until we see that on paper. But, it is top of mind. If the expansion is not in the short term, I still think that we should be leaning on Orange County to do the improvements per just the road quality. I mean, if you go out there, the shoulders on that road are horrendous. And so I'm kind of targeting these comments towards staff, but something needs to happen there. But
And Pam has been very proactive. We had a call the other day, and we have one set for next week with a handful of the other major developers in the area who all have approved projects in the pipeline talking about these transportation issues, because it's in all of our best interests that we're building out projects that have safe transportation networks. So it's certainly top of mind, even though there is a bit of our hands being tied because it's a county road and not a city road. Whether the city takes it over in the future, not a determination that we as private developers can make. But certainly the right-of-way dedication that the city has asked for, any type of access improvements, the connections and extensions of roads that will provide some alleviation of traffic on those major transportation corridors, all of that is being contemplated, and we're trying to work through the mechanics of a transportation DA that will come back before you.
Yeah, and then I guess the last comment that I'll make is just, when we moved to Apopka back in 2006, I don't know if it was around that time or if this dates back to that, but, Kelly Park Crossing has been on the vernacular of people in Apopka for quite some time. And so I know that there's concerns about infrastructure and things like that, and it's rightfully so. But this is one of those developments that people have been talking about for a long, long time. And if we get this right, it becomes a very significant regional draw for a very significant, important piece of Northwest Orange County. So, I just want to make sure that we get it right, and it is what it could be, and we all expect it to be. So, thank you.
I appreciate the comments.
Any other questions?
Well, I just want to make one clarification, or I guess it's a question that is hopefully a clarification. Kelly Park VV Development, they're not going to be the developer of everything on this. Most likely you guys will be piecemealing this out to probably have a multifamily developer come in and an industrial developer come in, correct? So it's not really you guys that are doing this.
Well, some segments, yes. So this is a legacy project that the developer and the entity that you named is working on.
Okay.
Yeah, we are going to bring in certain specific industry experts to handle parts of that. So you're right. If we're not industrial developers, we partner with somebody who does that, a multifamily developer, and we've hired some of the best local brokers to find us what exactly your market needs are in the city of Apopka, and not just filling it in with the same old strip center development. Right, we want to make this a really incredible mixed-use project. And the nice thing is we have the acreage to do so. So, to be able to do something at this scale because of how much we have compiled, and it took a long time for us to get that out of an unraveled complex bankruptcy, a lot of litigation that left this just sitting on the sidelines for way too many years. We have the opportunity to take a comprehensive approach to really do exactly what the KPIMU code was written for on a large-scale basis. But we are going to be bringing in some development partners. The nice thing about the DA is that it's binding on any of our successors and assigns, so that anybody that comes after us is going to have to be locked into that same development program in addition to the master plans. The only difference is they'll come before you for specific site development plan approvals that get vetted through your staff, so you'll know exactly what's going to be on a case-by-case basis. But this DA contemplates that specific master infrastructure has to be in place so that it is a unified project with connectivity and a cohesiveness between all of the pieces, regardless of whether we're the end master developer.
Understand. And that was something I just wanted our council to understand as well, that should the market change, should anything change, and things do, we're going through a different issue where we're dealing with a developer agreement that has changes that we're discussing, so or that are being asked. So as much as this is agreed to now, should the market change and apply pressure to you guys or whoever you sell this to or whoever you bring in, just know this isn't the final developer here on some of these items. So just keep that in mind.
So do you have a timeline as to when we will see the road improvement?
That's going to be determined based on, I think, timeline of the overall project. Again, right now, we're just trying to work through exactly what the scope of our transportation mitigation requirements are. We, of course, have submitted a transportation analysis to Pam. That's been reviewed. Now we're just trying to put pen to paper at what do we need to do, at what points do we need to do it, how many COs can we pull until you can have these certain infrastructure improvements in place. So I'm sure I'll have a lot of questions as it relates to transportation when that DA comes back before you all. Happy to answer any too in advance if there are provisions so that we don't have to do what I apologize we did tonight, making a change in the middle of the hearing, because I want to make sure we get it right on that transportation DA when it does come back before you.
Mr. Vasquez, anything? No? Okay. Okay, anybody from the public wish to speak? Let's come on down.
As a resident of Golden Gem Road, I have some observations that may or may not be correct. So that the commissioners and the administration, I would like to make you aware that as far as I am led to believe, Golden Gem Road was built simply tarred on top of a road without proper foundations. The first half of Golden Gem Road, which services Mid-Florida Materials themselves upgraded the road to carry the heavy traffic. There's no traffic allowed from Kelly Park down to Mid-Florida Materials because the road isn't graded in such a way or has no sub-base to allow heavy traffic. I noticed that the plan that was up there had entries to Golden Gem Road from midway down Golden Gem Road next to the new development Parkview Preserve. That's halfway down Golden Gem Road. So before we adopt anything in the city of Apopka, be aware that you will incur huge expense in making that road up to standard. The next thing is, I published aerial photographs of that road recently. The road is so narrow that it's actually narrower than the roads that service Parkview Preserve. You've recently put in new sewage, water, and telecoms on both sides of the road. I don't think that you're going to be able to upgrade that road so easily without widening it and incurring on the services you've already put in. So, I have no objection if it's done, and it's not going to incur huge costs to the city of Apopka, but I suggest you take a traffic study first because there's already huge amounts of traffic coming from your 3 developments that are going on Pond and coming along Golden Gem Road, using it as a shortcut for 429. There's subsidence on the road. I had several $1,000s worth of damage to a vehicle because of the subsidence on that road that City of Apopka refused to have anything to do with. Orange County wouldn't deal with it. But the Sheriff's Department told me they made representation to the Departments of Roads and Bridges to complain about that road. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's worth looking into. Thank you.
Thank you.
I totally agree with the points. And I'll look right at the applicant when I say this. I mean, and staff for that matter, there has to be something that's done about Golden Gem as this project goes forward. I mean, again, we're at the stage of, this developer's agreement is pretty, I wouldn't say boilerplate, but it's pretty straightforward. But transportation developers agreement where I think the roadway considerations are going to be front and center is going to be most critical to this. Correct me if I'm wrong. But.
No, understood. And we've heard a very similar message throughout this process. And this is really a DA that mirrors kind of zoning, right? The zoning's already been approved. We already have that. The master plan's already been approved. So we can't go pull permits, though, without some of these other items being in place, such as our transportation DA. We know it's a necessary precondition, and we have to work that through with the city. So rest assured, your city is definitely working on it from a staff perspective. You even have outside counsel that we've paid for to review that development agreement on the city's behalf as well. So we're trying to make sure that that process is run as smoothly as it can, and we're expediting getting to a resolution. And like I said, our team is also participating in some of what we would consider global conversations about the transportation networks outside of what our transportation study says we should even be talking about. But we're talking about them because it matters from a holistic perspective on the long-term success of the project. So we are happy to participate with those with your city staff, make sure that we can get this right and do things within both what the law would require as well as what we need to do to support the build out of these projects.
Thank you. All right. That will close the public hearing and look for a motion to approve the Kelly Park Crossing Development Agreement.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Becker.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Nesta. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Second reading on ordinance number 2972. Victoria?
An ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida, amending the future land use element of the Apopka Comprehensive Plan of the City of Apopka, changing the future land use designation from commercial to mixed use for certain real property generally located east of Alabama Avenue, west of McGee Avenue, and south of US 441, owned by Ace Property LLC, comprising 1.28 acres, more or less, providing for severability and for an effective date.
Okay, Gene, any changes? No changes? Okay, anybody from the public wish to speak on this matter? Not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion to adopt ordinance number 2972.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Nesta.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Velasquez. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, ordinance number 2973.
An ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida, amending the future land use element of the Apopka Comprehensive Plan of the City of Apopka, changing the future land use designation from agricultural to industrial for certain real property generally located east of Claricona Road, west of State Road 414, and north of Stone Road, owned by 3207 Claricona Road LLC, comprising 10.08 acres, more or less, providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Any changes, Gene? Okay, anybody from the public wish to speak on this matter? Not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion to adopt ordinance number 2973.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Smith.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Becker. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, ordinance number 2974.
An ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida, changing the zoning from AG Agriculture District to IL Light Industrial for certain real property generally located east of Claricona Road, west of State Road 414, and north of Stone Road, comprising 10.08 acres, more or less, and owned by 3207 Claricona Road LLC, providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Gene, any changes? Okay, anybody from the public wish to speak on this matter? Not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion to adopt ordinance number 2974.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Nesta.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Becker. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, ordinance number 2979.
An ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida, to extend its territorial and municipal limits to annex pursuant to Florida Statute 171.044, the hereinafter described lands situated and being in Orange County, Florida, owned by Philip and Patricia Simmons, located north of West Poncan Road and west of State Road 429, comprising 9.95 acres, providing for directions to the city clerk, severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Okay, any changes, Jim? Okay. Anybody from the public wish to speak on this matter? Come on down.
This particular proposed development is next to DR Horton on Ponkin Road. DR Horton currently have two developments, one on either side of the road. This would be annexed onto that. And again, I have concerns that all the traffic coming from these new developments are going to end up coming along Golden Gem Road. For that reason, you know my thoughts on this.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public wish to speak on this matter?
Ryan Solstice with LPG on behalf of my client P&P BuildCon. This is a annexation for 10 acres, 9.95 plus or minus. It is contiguous to the west with the parcel the gentleman just referred to, which is DR Horton. It is contiguous. It is filling in this hole in here, and it is within the JPA and the city of Apopka with Orange County. And then I just asked that.
Is this adjoining to, or is this going to be a standalone by itself?
Correct. This is a standalone development. We're going to come back in with a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment and a rezoning. It's going to be 2 dwelling units an acre for 20 units on site, custom homes.
2 dwelling units per acre.
Yeah,
Correct.
20 lots, right?
20 lots.
Yeah.
Is this connecting to Phil's Lane, or are we just doing a roundabout at the?
No. So this is just going to be a cul-de-sac. We had the community meeting about 2 weeks ago, and we heard from the residents around there. We had originally planned to do a cul-de-sac because it is more feasible financially, and the residents in that area expressed concern with utilizing Phil's Lane, and so we pursued the route of using the cul-de-sac at this time.
And is that acceptable for our LDC? That's a normal? Because what's the threshold to have a second entrance or a?
25 units.
Is it 25? Okay, thank you.
I see some pause by Mr. Hitt. You're aligned with that?
Yes.
Okay. No, I guess, obviously this annexation conversation, but when it comes to site planning and things like that, the entry onto Pond Can, how close would that be? A safe distance from the entrance that's to the west neighborhood?
Correct.
Any issues there?
There'll be driveway separation according to code.
Okay. And and again, I keep on going to Mr. McKimmy's points is, the point being is, in previous council meetings, we've gotten plans around, like Deodat has showed us plans around repaving our roads in the city of Apopka. Having a plan of attack for a golden gem and all these other things, I think it would be helpful when we're having this dialogue with applicants, that we can just go straight to it and point to it and say, yeah, golden gem, we're doing this with the county at this date. It just alleviates some of these conversations. So I'm not talking to you. I'm talking, sorry. So anyway, okay.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant? Anybody else from the public wish to speak on this matter? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion to adopt ordinance number 2979.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Nesta.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Becker. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, ordinance number 2975.
Before we jump to this, I need a motion from the council to remove this from the table. This was the item that was tabled at the last council meeting.
Okay.
I move that item 2975 be removed from the table.
Got a motion by Commissioner Smith.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Nesta. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay.
An ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida, amending ordinance number 2671, which is known as Avion Point Plant Development PD for certain real property generally located south of Peterson Road, north of Lust Road, and east of State Road 429, comprising 127.21 acres, more or less, and owned by Apopka Clear Lake Investments, LLC, providing for directions to the Community Development Director, severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Jim, are you presenting? Who? Or Gene?
Yes, sir. I'm going to present again what we presented on November 2nd, just so we can give a refresher to everybody. This is the request to accept the first reading of ordinance number 2975, the Avion Point PD and Master Plan. The subject properties are located south of Peterson Road, north of Lust Road, and east of State Road 429. Currently has a future land use designation of residential medium, which allows for up to 10 dwelling units per acre. The Avion Point PD was adopted and master plan was approved on September 19, 2018 through ordinance number 2671. The subject property is approximately 127.2 acres in size and zoned PD planned unit development and has a future land use designation, as I mentioned, of residential medium. The applicant is requesting, it's residential medium for this portion that they are amending, but they also have a residential low on these properties as well, which allows for up to 5 dwelling units per acre on portions of it. The applicant is requesting to amend the Avion Point PD and master plan, proposing an increase in the total amount of residential units that were previously permitted. Development design standards from the current master plan are carried over to this proposed master plan. The original Avion Point PD master plan was approved via ordinance 2433 and amended via ordinance number 2671, permitting up to 758 residential units consisting of single-family, townhomes, multifamily units, and a shared-use recreation area, as well as a parcel for school. Access to the development is via Grand Avion Parkway. The applicant is requesting to increase the number of multifamily units by 56 units, changing the project density from 7.36 dwelling units per acre to 7.95 dwelling units per acre, and the multifamily unit total from 482 to 538. The maximum permitted density in the multifamily portion of the PD is 10 dwelling units per acre. The DRC recommends approval, and the recommended motion is to accept the first reading of ordinance number 2975 and hold it over for second reading. Staff and applicant are available for questions.
So any questions for Dean, or would you like the applicant to come up and talk about?
Commissioner Velasquez, did you want to go?
I did my agenda review, and I still, I still have some questions regarding the amendment to increase to 56 units. And my concern has been from the very beginning, does it change the footprint of the project?
Yeah, we'll let the applicant answer that. Any other questions for Gene, and we'll bring the applicant up. I know, talk about the watershed as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. That was one of the questions we had.
Right.
What determines whether you have a dry pond and a wet pond,
Right.
and also what is the size requirement for a high school? Because remember they had a school.
Yes.
The school parcel is approximately 14.9 acres.
But they also have the joint.
The shared
Shared.
amenity, recreation, correct.
So, and I don't know who it directed to, so I'll just pile it on. But was there any traffic impact analysis done on the additional units, additional parking considerations, the perpetuation of the school overcapacity, that sort of thing?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Tom Sullivan with the Gray Robinson Law Firm. Good to see everyone tonight. I'll start off just trying to answer some of those questions, and then what I'll do is I'll ask our civil engineer, Jason Mahoney, to come up and give you a little bit of additional detail regarding the drainage questions that came up at the last meeting. So just maybe to start off just with the schools, because I think Gene answered those questions correctly. Yeah, the parcel B5, which I think everyone can see on the screen, that parcel was, or is, I should say, 14.91 acres. That was deeded to OCPS in July of 2021. And there is, I think as was noted by the mayor, there's a shared recreation agreement between the property owner and the school board with respect to phase B4, which is, I believe, 5.56 acres. So that takes it over to 20. And it's intended for a K through 8, just to be clear about that. So, and then I think, Commissioner Becker, you're asking about just school capacity, I think, in general.
The first two were traffic impact the additional units would have.
Right.
I don't know how many bedroom units they are.
Yep.
Parking, if that changes the parking considerations, because all
Right.
that contributes to the whole water conversation.
Sure, no, it does. That's a fair question. So, yeah, let me, I'll just back up on that. There was a study, Pam asked us to do a study kind of right at the beginning of starting this PD amendment process. And I think what it showed with the 56 additional units was that it was a de minimis impact. It didn't cause any additional road segments to fail or anything. And I should point this out. I think those of you who are familiar with the project, and I've had the opportunity to work on it from the beginning, the original land use entitlements that were put in place. This developer built Grand Avion Parkway, which is the main kind of spine road that runs through the whole site, which I think has added, some benefits to the area in terms of kind of connecting a couple of the road segments. But these units, and I think this is just, part of answering your questions, these units really are geared towards young professionals. And so, Commissioner Velasquez, you were asking, or I think a couple of you were, just in terms of the impact on the building footprint and how that impacts the drainage. So they're smaller units because they're young professional folks, given the proximity to the hospital. And this has always been, I should point out, I think a great location for multifamily, just because it's right next to 429. We've got the hospital. There was a significant amount of units, multifamily units that were already approved. And we just think this is a great place to add some additional units. But it wouldn't, and I remember Commissioner Nesta, you asked the question at the last meeting, would there be an additional building? No. We can basically fit them within the footprint that was there. I think there's five buildings that are shown there. It doesn't increase the height either. I know that was another question. So, but Commissioner Becker, you make a good point that you got to have parking spaces for them. So that's a valid point. There's additional parking there that's provided as a result of the additional units that we're requesting. So hopefully that answers some of those questions. I did want to, if I could, just start to transition a little bit to the drainage, because I think we obviously heard the conversation at the last meeting, and I think it's fair to say that just the general topic of Clear Lake sort of came up in connection with our project. And I know there was a meeting earlier this afternoon, and there's been separate conversation. And obviously, you all can appreciate that we're nearby, but just kind of part of the picture there. But the significant thing I wanted to note for you is that we went back and confirmed there, and I'll let Jason speak to this more specifically, but I do want to make a couple points that I think are really important for you all to hear. Certain portions of the project do drain to Clear Lake, I think specifically 23%. But the really critical point that I can't really emphasize or underscore enough here is that this particular phase B2, does not drain to Clear Lake. It actually drains to Lake Apopka. We have, and if you'd like, I can put the stormwater St. John's permits on the screen. There's a couple different permits, but there's one specifically for B2 that identifies the receiving water body as Lake Apopka there. So I think that's really important for y'all to note in connection just with this kind of narrow request for the additional 56 units. So hopefully that answers some of your questions. Are there any other questions I can answer maybe before asking Jason to maybe go through it in a little bit more detail on the drainage?
And Tom, if you could get that to us.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to, Mayor. In fact, I emailed it earlier. I know to Gene and Jim, and I know they could kind of put it up on the screen just to make sure it's part of the record. So, and actually, though, you make a good point. I've actually got a hard copy here too. Now that I think about it, so I will hand that now to the clerk. Yeah, it's I kind of got my markups on it too.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, any other just kind of the overall questions for Tom, and if not, we'll bring Jason up and talk about the drainage.
Did you answer my question about the footprint?
Yes, ma'am. I did. Yeah,
So
it doesn't.
how do you add 56 units in 5 buildings?
Yeah. I'll let Jason answer, but they're smaller units for young professionals. Basically, is the answer. But go ahead, Jason.
Good evening, and Jason Mahoney, NV5, 6200 Lee Vista Boulevard, Suite 400, Orlando, Florida. Commissioner Velasquez, to address your question exactly, with the 56 additional units, that's in what we're referring to Phase 2B, which is the 5 buildings in the northwest corner of parcel B2. And with those 5 buildings, if you think about it, 56 units over 5 buildings is about 11 units per building. And then when there's 4 floors in each building, you're really only talking about fitting 3 more units per floor. So what the architect is going to do is the architect's just going to establish a new floor plan, a new unit layout in each building to incorporate those additional units. So it's really, while 56 sounds like a lot on the surface, when you spread it out over the 20 floors, it's not as significant.
You don't think it's a lot?
No, ma'am. No, not considering the order of magnitude of residential units in Avion Point altogether. And that is still well below the threshold of 10 dwelling units per acre. I think it's 7.95 as proposed.
So could you go ahead and go then into the drainage part for I guess the global view, and then bring it down to the item we've got here on the agenda.
Do the others.
All right, there it is. Do you have that one?
That should do it. So what this is here is this is what engineers refer to as a post-development drainage map. And this is from the Water Management District website, Water Management District permit, I apologize. And what is shown here is I wanted to demonstrate to you where each of the basins drain to. So if you see up there in the north, there's yellow basins, Basin F, that drains to Lake Henniger. Then basins E and D, which are in like a reddish orange color, are the ones that discharge to Clear Lake directly. And then everything in green discharges to the west through cross culverts under the 429 to Lake Apopka. If you do the math on it, the amount of area that's draining to Clearwater Lake is approximately 20.86%. So only about 21% of the overall development actually goes to Clear Lake. The majority of it goes to Lake Apopka, and as Tom pointed out, parcel B2, which is the subject parcel of this item, is going to actually to Lake Apopka.
And is the as we call it, the rust-colored section, which does drain into Clear Lake, has that all been developed, or is it?
Yes, it has actually.
Okay, so it's completely built out. There's
right.
Okay.
So parcel
okay.
Basin D is a portion of the single-family development that D.R. Horton put up, and then Basin E is a portion of the townhome development that I believe D.R. Horton also did.
Okay.
And then just wanted to point out, this is the St. John's permit for Grand Avion Parkway, and on the third page of the permit, just to be clear, the receiving water bodies are listed as Henniger Lake, Clearwater Lake, and Lake Apopka. So like I said, portion of the project drains to all three lakes. But then when you look at the other approved permit for Avion Point B2 multifamily, same thing on the third page of the permit, it lists the receiving water body as only Lake Apopka. So it's just more demonstrative proof that parcel B2 only drains to Lake Apopka.
Is that it, Jason?
Yes, unless I can answer any other questions, of course.
Any questions for Jason?
Can you go back to that first map you had up there? So you're saying that basin E and D both already built out?
Yes, sir.
And those are the two that drain into Clear Lake?
That's correct.
And so what you're developing now is going to be the green section?
That's correct.
And that's going to Lake Apopka?
That's correct. It discharges through cross drains under the 429 and off to Lake Apopka.
And just so we know there's some issues with the ponds that the current that does drain to Clear Lake. So, it's apples and oranges. They're going to need to fix, not you guys, but the developer of the rust colored is going to have to fix the stormwater condition that we have there.
That's correct.
That part of Avion Point.
Yeah, they're obliged to do
Correct.
that. Obligated.
Correct. And who is?
That's also Clear Lake Investments, actually.
Okay, so same developer?
Yeah,
Okay.
on behalf of D.R. Horton and
So D.R. Horton, okay. Okay.
So it's the same developer that's going to develop the green?
No, sir. The green is going to be sold off to a multifamily developer.
My concern is obviously, plans look great on paper, but the reality is telling us something different. And so the plans of the rust-colored basin going into Clear Lake and it operating successfully has been proven false. There's breakage in the expectation of how those ponds are working, how the drainage is working. So I find it hard to believe that there's no impact, or we could sit here and articulate that there would be no impact by what the business is here today to perpetuate that issue even further. I don't have any, you say demonstrative proof, but I don't have anything in our packet to suggest that that's certain for me to make this decision that 56 additional units are not going to perpetuate a flooding issue. It's not in our packet. Additionally, I don't have, we say it's de minimis on the traffic impact. I don't have a traffic study. So what concerns me is that we explored this piece of business initially. I don't know why we didn't consider this full build out when we considered it initially. We're broaching topics again that we've already put to bed back when we explored this piece of business the first time, because we're just going to perpetuate the capacity issue yet again. We've got this flooding uncertainty. We just had a meeting earlier today on this topic. And then the lack of traffic impact because Plymouth Sorrento, again, I don't have anything in front of me. It's anecdotal at this point, but Plymouth Sorrento, combined with some of the other things that are going on there too, it just adds to that congestion. So
You mean Binion?
Binion, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. Binion south of there, because there's several developments that are in flight right now. So I don't have any of those facts in front of me, so it's hard for me to kind of lend a supportive mindset here.
And then once again, can you explain what determines where there's a dry pond and a wet pond?
What the difference?
Yes, what determines where you're going to place the dry pond as opposed to the wet one?
It's not necessarily a location per se. It's more dry ponds create more opportunity for pollution abatement, water quality treatment, versus wet ponds create more chance for attenuation. Because most of Apopka is in either the Lake Apopka overlay basin or the Wekiva recharge zone, very few of the lakes in Apopka are designed as wet detention. Majority are designed as dry retention for the very reason that we have a extra pollution abatement quality that we have to meet.
Isn't it also true that a wet pond, you have to have almost double the amount of storage, a wet pond versus a dry pond?
It tends to be that way only because a wet pond has to have a certain amount of permanent pool volume. It has to have a certain amount of water that stays in it all the time.
Any other questions for the applicant?
I don't know if I have questions or just comments in general. It's in reference to, I know that we have the meeting that we had today about Clearwater Lake. It came up and it was very surprising to me and concerning that Avion Point has failed drainage ponds. Those are brand new. So the same developer that did those ponds that failed are also requesting these ones. So obviously it doesn't instill confidence that if those failed, these ones will be corrected.
Sure. I wonder if the term failed is an accurate term. The ponds are not performing as they were expected to in the design. They're not failing necessarily. They are still retaining the runoff. They're not overflowing. They're not flooding out any neighbors.
But they're not dry.
They are not dry. Yes.
For a dry pond that's not dry, I called it a fail. So it's semantics on my end, or in general, but it doesn't instill a lot of confidence. And from my understanding too, there's 2 active or pending permits for this project as well through St. John's and I think Orange County possibly, that the representative that was here today didn't seem confident in the application or in the permit process, I guess itself, just with, I guess, what has been presented. And I don't have a lot of detail for that, but there wasn't a lot of confidence in what has been already there and then what has been applied for.
I can't really speak to her confidence level, but I can tell you, yes, there is an application in to resolve ponds, what we call ponds 2, 4, and 6, to take that condition where it's not draining, where it's not recovering in the 72 hours it was supposed to and recover it within that 72 hours. And the Water Management District has worked with us to date on that application. Yes, it's not approved yet, but it's nearly there.
Is there anything different you guys are going to do on these other ponds that you're creating for the multifamily project or portion than what you did before?
What we're going to do is we're going to monitor the groundwater condition during construction to determine whether or not we have a confining layer, which is what we identified as the problem with these other 3 ponds. There's a confining layer. There's a small layer of clay that was unidentified in the geotech report, but it was there and it's precluding the runoff. So part of the solution is to actually excavate out that clay layer. So what we're going to do is we're going to monitor parcel B2 as it's constructed, and if we start to see a clay layer that's perching and prohibiting infiltration, then we can remove it then, and it will help the pond perform correctly in the future.
To echo my same sentiment I already had, I have low confidence in that the situation already hasn't been fixed to be adding more to this issue, and you're telling me until we dig down and find out, we don't really have an answer whether or not.
Well, and to the point that it alleviates concerns, this is also parcel B2, basin B2, which is going to Lake Apopka. It's not going to exacerbate the situation in Clear
Well, and I
Lake.
see this map is humorous to me because water doesn't flow in a perfectly straight line. So to say that it's going to stop at whatever road it may be or whatever line you have, I don't see that happening perfectly.
I mean, if you're referring to the straight line on the top here, the reason that it is in a straight line is because there is a street there now called Gallinule Drive that runs north and south directly along that bifurcating line, and that is what creates the basin divide. Everything that falls onto Gallinule Drive or anywhere east of it goes to the east. Everything that falls to the west of Gallinule Drive will go west.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Anybody from the public wish to speak on this matter? Okay, we'll bring it back and look for a motion.
Mayor, if I didn't mean to interrupt, but if I could maybe add a little bit before
Sure.
y'all take that. I just, I understand the concerns. We've heard the concerns. We've tried to address them as best we could. And I think we've brought about some key information for you all in terms of the fact that this particular phase drains into Lake Apopka. I mean, the permit that we showed on the screen and I handed to the clerk, that was issued in 2021. So I mean, this isn't just something that we've conveniently sort of brought out. I mean, this has always kind of been how it's where that water was supposed to go. In terms of the traffic impacts, we did submit a study. I understand that's not part of your record, part of the packet. But we certainly can, we're here tonight on first reading, so we certainly can get that incorporated for the second meeting. And I would just submit to you too that, I mean, your staff has recommended approval here. I believe includes their review of the study. That they're showing that we satisfy those requirements. That they were comfortable to make that recommendation. So I think that I think the key point that I would bring out to you, and I would respectfully submit to you in connection with requesting your approval, is that we've satisfied the criteria for the rezoning request. That's in your code. Your staff's recommended approval. Planning Commission recommended approval. We understand at the last meeting the reason that it was continued was because of the drainage issue that was kind of wrapped up in this larger conversation regarding Clear Lake, and we took that seriously. As I said before, I mean, we went back, we reviewed the permits, we came back and presented y'all with the information that we have tonight, specifically with regard to this portion of the property and the fact that Lake Apopka is the receiving body, not Clear Lake. So if there's more information that we can bring forward the next time, if that's helpful, I would just request that you give us the opportunity to do so. And further, if it helps anything, certainly the council's in a position to propose, an additional condition of approval, to the effect that those permit conditions are followed and that there's, including without limitation, I might say that there's no drainage from this phase B2 that goes to Clear Lake, just as a potential way of addressing that issue. So appreciate everyone's time and consideration tonight. And as I said, we're just at first reading. If we can continue to work through this, we would greatly appreciate it. We think we've built a really nice project here. We've been at it for some time. I think these additional 56 units would be beneficial just overall to the density and the needs of the area. So appreciate your consideration.
Can I ask you one more thing? Is it possible, should this pass the first reading at the second reading, is it possible to bring animation as to how the water from Pond 2 is going to flow across to Lake Apopka?
Commissioner Smith, I would defer to Jason just because it's a technical issue, but my short answer to you would be absolutely yes. I mean, we could come back and try to demonstrate that to you in more detail and would appreciate the opportunity to do that at the next meeting. So thank you for the suggestion.
Is Richard still here?
No.
Is anybody here who can speak to the?
Vlad, do you want to speak to?
So my only question is, the current dry pond, is it working as designed? In the rust-colored section, lower right-hand side, directly abutting Clear Lake.
I think there's one that is and one that isn't.
Commissioner Becker's referring to this pond right here, pond number 3.
The one closest to Clear Lake.
Okay, yeah, I believe that was discussed earlier at the.
I wanted in testimony for this hearing. Is it working as designed?
I don't have the exact information on that. I mean,
Okay, and this further perpetuates my inability to make a decision here based off the facts that I have on hand. So we're saying that it's a real easy answer. It's a direct question. Is it currently working as designed?
I really can't answer that.
Okay,
because
so without
I haven't
an
been
affirmative
involved
answer,
in that section of the.
that gives me reasonable doubt to say that even though the applicant is saying that this is how it's designed within the rest of the development, I have reasonable doubt to say that it's going to work as designed. That's all I want to get officially on the record.
What I thought my understanding is that it was not working as originally designed because there was a hard pan that they identified and they was going to go back and remove the hard pan, is what I understood.
That was my understanding from the previous meeting that was on Clearwater Lakes. So I can't say for sure because I wasn't involved in that. Richard was working on that with St. John's, so I don't want to make a statement that I don't have the exact information. What I can do is I can restate what Kemi Dewey from St. John's said earlier, that basically it didn't work as it was designed.
If I can clarify or ask for some clarification, when you're talking about previous meeting, are you referring to the public meeting that was previously held regarding Clear Lake?
I think you're talking about yes, I believe so.
Because I'm having some heartburn that we're now bringing in information from a separate hearing into this matter. This is a quasi-judicial hearing because it's because it's an amendment to a basically rezoning, and we're bringing in testimony and information from an outside meeting into this one, where an applicant does not have the opportunity to cross-examine those witnesses or those people that testified or spoke at that other meeting. This matter is limited to the amendment at hand and the information that's presented by the applicant in regards to this application. And I'm having heartburn if we're bringing in information from a separate meeting from people that are outside. While we don't have to abide by the rules of evidence, but they're not here to provide what would be competent substantial evidence at this hearing by bringing in purported testimony or purported information from a separate meeting. If we're going down that route, then I would ask that those folks be brought at second reading so that we can have a full and complete record of this matter and the application and the information that's sought after within this application, and whether or not the standards that are required for this application to be considered by the city council are met or are not met. That's my concern. I'm hearing too much information about a separate meeting that is not part of this meeting and isn't technically even part of the record of this meeting, aside from statements of people that were there who are bringing that information here. So I want to narrow this down because I want to have a complete and accurate record which will support a decision one way or another. If that is the case, then at second reading, we can bring those folks in. But at this point, I have difficulty considering that information from outside to be the basis for any decision on the part of the city council at tonight's matter for the record for this specific application and whatever criteria this application has to meet for approval or denial.
My reference was, I thought I heard Jason say that the ponds were not working as designed, that it wasn't, they were failing, that they were not working as designed. And the reason was because there was a hard pan that they had identified later that was not discovered previously, and that hard pan was going to be removed. It's what I heard from Jason.
I would agree, and that's exactly why I asked for our staff to provide testimony in this hearing.
I'm just want to clarify because I've also heard too much of, well, at the last meeting we had and these other meetings, and I really want to narrow this down and provide an accurate and proper record because of the fact that this is quasi-judicial in nature.
So, so is the point you're making is that we can only make the decision based on what the information in our packet is?
In the last
last
commission meeting, not
I understand.
the 4 o'clock.
It's the information in your packet and the testimony that's brought forth here during this matter. Bringing in then, referring to a separate meeting with separate folks who may have testified as to other information, they're not here. I guess what I'm trying to say is if you're bringing in the information from another meeting and that person's not here, I have a trouble then considering that information as competent substantial evidence that would support an approval or a denial. Because that person is not here. I mean, if this were a court, it's not. But if this were a court, that's all hearsay, and it would be inadmissible. While we don't abide by those same standards, those same rules of evidence, it could prejudice whatever decision is made upon judicial review of a decision one way or another, that this council brought in other information or is considering the testimony of other folks who were not present to testify at the city council meeting, but provided their information elsewhere without the ability of the applicant to cross-examine them.
So I think what I'd like to do, we can always, second reading, we can kill it. But I think just based on some of the information that Michael Rodriguez has given us, that we might be in kind of muddy water right now. We can always come at the second reading with all the information brought forward and we can deny the application. But because if we deny it tonight, we theoretically could be subject to.
If you elect to deny, your denial has to be based on your denial has to be supported by competent substantial evidence. Okay. And I mean, my job would be to defend that action in the event of judicial review, and I have to review that. What information, what evidence was that was considered by the city council to base their denial, and whether that evidence constitutes competent substantial evidence. And that's what would have to be weighed. And because of those statements, I am counseling this council to, I would prefer that information be brought forth at the hearing, before this tribunal, for it to be properly considered, for the applicant to have the proper opportunity to cross-examine, and then you can hash it out. If the evidence still weighs that you believe that is proper evidence to support denial, then so be it. That's fine. I just want to make sure that the proper evidence is before this tribunal properly to support a decision one way or another.
Okay. All right.
Well, I didn't make reference to the prior
I'm
meeting
not
at all.
specifying who made a reference or not.
But he made reference to the fact that he is aware that his drainage is not working as it was designed. You did say that. And so
Yes,
that alone
specifically-
tells me, but then you're saying, we're gonna fix it. Approve me now, and the next reading, I'll come back and tell you we fix it. That should be fixed now.
I guess what I'm but we're referring to ponds 2, 4, and 6, which are not, they're not part of parcel B2. They're not part of the subject parcel of tonight's item.
I'm sorry, say that again?
They're not part of parcel B2, so they're not part and parcel to the item that's on the agenda tonight.
Isn't pond 2 part of that?
Pond 2 is part of Basin C. It's difficult to see. I can.
Pond 2, show me pond 2. Oh,
Pond 2 is right here. So
Okay.
Basin C, the small basin, drains to pond 2. All of Basin B2 will have its own future ponds designed, but will discharge to the west to Lake Apopka.
All right, so what's the will of the council?
I'm prepared to make a motion that we accept the first reading and recommend that at the second reading that they bring in animation describing how the water flows to Lake Apopka.
I'd like to, on that motion, can we add those belts and suspenders that Mr. Sullivan had mentioned?
Yes, I'd be happy to recap.
Okay, can you
them if
read
that's
that into the
helpful, or-
record as well? And that way we've got some,
Yeah, I'm just looking at my notes, Mayor. What I was suggesting was a condition of approval that the St. John's River Water Management District permit conditions are followed, including without limitation, no drainage from parcel B2 going to Clear Lake.
okay. Does that, we'll add that as a condition. So we got a motion by Commissioner Smith with that extra condition.
But
Do we have a sec-
can he repeat that again, that which pond is that? Pond 2. I'm sorry, can you read that
Yeah,
again?
Commissioner Velasquez, what I wasn't talking any more specifically about the pond, the stormwater retention ponds. What I was talking about was the larger existing St. John's permit
Okay.
that covers phase B2, which is what we're talking, phase B2 of the project rather than the particular
Okay,
stormwater
B2.
retention pond.
Okay,
Does that clarify that?
okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
And if I could suggest that the applicant just provide the draft conditions that the staff can review, and then it'll be made part of the packet that'll be brought to the second
Happy
meeting.
to.
That way, we'll basically have a revised final development agreement with such conditions.
All right.
And that'll be in your packet for your consideration at second reading.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, so we got a motion by Commissioner Smith.
Can you get this second from me?
Do we have a second?
At this second reading, should we get there, we need some do you either of you guys live in Apopka?
No, we don't.
Okay, so I do. And I have to deal with anything that you guys do incorrectly down the road. Similar to the pond that you guys have already done. I know we're not voting on that tonight and that's not part of it, but I have to handle this and deal with it and fix things down the road. So
Understood.
I need a lot of confidence built at the second reading. I mean, I have low to no confidence that you guys are gonna build these ponds correctly. You're gonna sell this out and I have to figure it out down the road.
No, understood. And just to that point, I suggested kind of in the middle of the hearing that condition, but we can maybe give some more detail, connect more dots, as Commissioner Smith was saying, but possibly also add some conditions that are part of and stipulated with any approval, so that those are 100% enforceable should things not go the way they are. Although certainly all the intention is that they do. So hopefully that's somewhat responsive to your statement.
All right, I'll second it.
Got a motion by Commissioner Smith, a second by Commissioner Nesta. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
So we have 3 in the affirmative, Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Nesta, Mayor Nelson, 2 in the opposition, Commissioner Becker and Commissioner Velasquez.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Resolution 2022-49.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Apopka, Florida, determining the necessity and public purpose and authorizing the acquisition of property in Apopka, Florida by eminent domain or through negotiation for future Apopka water reclamation facility and reclaimed water storage reservoir at and around Snowden Road, authorizing city attorney to initiate eminent domain proceedings to acquire the necessary property, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
It's okay. All right. Good evening, Michael Rodriguez, City Attorney. The resolution. That's on. I can't believe I got to pick this up for myself now. The resolution that's before you is the first step in commencing eminent domain proceedings on property. This does not necessarily mean that condemnation proceedings will begin, but it is the legal first step that is required in order to get to that step. The property in question is, there we go, this property here. And it has been determined that the city needs this property in order to complete the expansion and improvements to the water treatment plant. The properties surrounding this have already been acquired by the city, and the intention is for this property to be part of the reservoir that will be constructed on the site. The property owner, I don't get the correct name because I just always go by the last name. Roush was notified. An offer for the purchase of the property was made to Mr. Roush as required under Florida statutes. A fair offer was made based on the appraised value of the property. At that point, the information conveyed to us was Mr. Roush did not necessarily accept the property, and at that time was purportedly represented by counsel. I dealt with counsel and can advise counsel that we would proceed with these first steps. Yesterday, I actually finally got a hold of his attorney because I had not been able to reach him, or he had not actually responded to my messages. And it turns out Mr. Roush's counsel no longer serves as his counsel. So one of the main impetuses for also this first step is in negotiating with Mr. Roush has had certain concerns regarding the proceeds of the sale of this property and his intention to be able to exercise a 1033 exchange, which would allow an extra time for him to reinvest the proceeds of the sale. Under a 1033 exchange, that is properties that are subject to either being condemned or under the threat of condemnation. So even in order to proceed forward in this, a resolution of necessity is needed. That would be the first step. At that point, then this property is under threat of condemnation. It is my belief that this is a matter that we will negotiate and come to an accord without even the need to file a lawsuit in circuit court to commence with eminent domain proceedings. With this resolution, the current owner of the property will be able to have an extension of time in order to reinvest the proceeds of the sale without incurring without incurring an additional tax liability. And that's always been the intent of both of us, the city, and the property owner in regards to the purchase of this final remaining property. But to get to that step, we have to do this, which is adopt this resolution of necessity in order to proceed forward with the final negotiations for the purchase of this property. So any questions, I am here to answer them.
Any questions for Michael?
You're saying, so you think we're going to be able to negotiate a deal prior to actually having to file anything?
Correct. The main real impetus to get here is that the property owner wants to do a 1033 exchange. He cannot do a 1033 exchange unless we actually adopt a resolution of necessity, which is the first legal step to get the property to be possibly subject to eminent domain. Without a resolution right now, there's nothing that says that this property is subject to eminent domain. The resolution is the first step in which what this resolution does is it has the determination, and the city council has determined that this property is necessary and meets a public purpose. The public purpose being the expansion and renovation of the city's reclaimed water plant and its reclaimed water reservoir. So there is a public purpose. This resolution formalizes and adopts the public purpose in order to legally allow the city to proceed to eminent domain. On the flip side, it actually then puts the property under threat of eminent domain, which allows the property owner to sell under the threat of condemnation and then be able to get a 1033 exchange and receive the tax benefits that he so seeks.
And you're saying that the owner is fully aware of this, they're agreeable with this is their preference?
The owner is actually the one who proposed the 1033 exchange.
Okay, I'm just making sure that this isn't just coming out of left field. So.
No, it was the owner who proposed that exchange, and at that point, we then, with council, negotiate, yes, if we pass a resolution, that is enough to meet the standard of a property under threat of eminent domain, not the filing of the lawsuit in court, but we can get beforehand to this point, which now allows us to complete the negotiations, complete the sale, and the property owner can exercise those tax benefits.
Are we doing something similar 2 roads up?
We're still in those negotiating process with those folks. If we
been a
get
while.
to that far, you're going to be getting a second resolution of necessity in order to get to that first step as well, in order to complete the last parcel that we're assembling for the public safety building.
Right.
Okay, any other questions for Michael? Anybody from the public wish to speak on this matter? Not, we'll close the public hearing, look for a motion to approve resolution 2022-48.
49, 48? 49.
That's 49.
49.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Nesta.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, resolution 2022-51.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Apopka, Florida, amending the budget for fiscal year beginning October 1, 2022 and ending September 30th, 2023, providing for a budget amendment.
Edward?
Hopefully this was my last one. Resolution 51 before you tonight basically is the budget amendment for the 2 JAG grants. At your last meeting, you approved the JAG grant for the police department. Tonight, on your consent agenda, you approved another JAG grant, one for 21, one for 22. This amendment, this resolution records that a budget amendment for a total of $31,722.
Okay. Any questions for Edward?
I'm sorry, $30,431.
Any questions for Edward? Anybody from the public wish to speak on this matter? Not, we'll close the public hearing, look for a motion to approve resolution 2022-51.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Velasquez.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Becker. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, resolution 2022-52. Ms. Pam.
A resolution approving a wayfinding signage master plan and the destination criteria to be used for placement of wayfinding signage within the City of Apopka, authorizing the city manager to execute documents necessary to implement the master plan and providing an effective date.
Pam?
Yes, this is a request to approve a resolution. Edward and I have been working on a wayfinding sign plan, and I guess I should put them in. We've landed on the example on the left as our design. It's tough following all of DOT's guidelines. They've got rules for everything. And since some of our locations, a large majority of them, in fact, are on DOT's roads, we have to follow their guidelines. I mean, they take you right down to font size. So we went through several iterations and came up with what you see on the left. I know this is hard to see. I did put it in your package. These are the 10 locations that we've selected. They are the points where you're coming into town, north, south, east, and west, that are sort of the gateway points to downtown. And what I'm going to take you through are the locations and then the language that we've proposed. I can't guarantee you that DOT is going to let us have all this language on there. I can't get a clear answer from them. I've been told 3 lines. I've been told 2 lines. I've been told nothing specific. For example, Kitland, Nelson might have to come off. It might just be able to say park. But we've gotten some conflicting information. So what we're doing is we're putting together a package with the resolution, sending it to DOT, and then they will send us comments back, and we can fix it. But what y'all need to understand or acknowledge through this resolution is the language that we put on these signs, you don't have any problem with it. So this is location 1. It's on Sheeler as your, I'm sorry, it's on at the intersection of 436 and Sheeler as you're approaching downtown from the east. And we've got that sign pretty loaded up, but that's the approximate location of where that sign will be. This is location 2. It's as you're coming up from 441, also at Sheeler, similar language. Location 3 at Main Street. Sorry, that's wrong on there. It's Main Street at Park. You can see the karate shop there and Walgreens. Location 4, Park Avenue heading south. Location 5, also on Park Avenue, up on the city's property at Grossenbacher. Location 6, this will be when you get off the 451 heading towards town from the west. Location 7 at Bradshaw. Location 8, my favorite location, where the 3 palm trees are sort of form a nice location for the sign. It will actually be back a little bit further where the variable message sign is. Location 9, approaching from the south at Michael Gladden. And then location 10, right here at the corner of 5th and Park Avenue. And so I'm asking you to approve this, the master plan and the resolution to send to DOT with our package.
Any questions for Pam?
The only nitpicky thing would be where the arrows are pointing to the right. Wouldn't you keep it consistent and keep them on the left-hand side? That looks odd.
On this last one.
You know what I mean?
Yes. There are standards for that too, and I'm sure DOT will correct that.
Okay.
They like getting their red pen out and
No, but I
hopefully-
agree with that. The Apopka top of the sign looks much better than the logo because that gets lost in the.
We looked at a lot of iterations, and this finally landed on, I think, what we all had in mind.
One, I know this was a Commissioner Velazquez request.
Signage,
Yes.
signage around the city of Apopka, because when you come into the city of Apopka, there's nothing that says you're in Apopka unless I just feel it's welcoming.
Can I talk? This is the first phase, or are you going to tell them?
Absolutely, go ahead.
Do we? This is
you
kind of
do
like the
have-
first phase of what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And then the next plan is to put the bigger signage, in the 4 cardinal directions at strategic locations. They're more of the welcome to Apopka kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we're starting with this, and then we'll advance to that. It's a little more involved and probably a little more expensive.
So, the signs look great, but when you're coming off of 451 where it gives you the direction to go to the amphitheater, will we change that brown sign to put one of these up? So
Commissioner,
it's consistent, you know which one I'm talking about?
I know exactly what
by
you're
the
talking about.
Apopka
That's a good
Elementary?
idea. We didn't think about that one, but because we have our amphitheater out that direction, that might be a good place to put one as well. So we will make sure we add that, so.
So
it's a
that all
spot.
the signs are consistent?
Because we don't have anything that says amphitheater. That would be a great one to put right there.
Okay.
We
Good
looked
idea.
at some of the signs when we were out driving around, and I made a list of signs that are in poor shape or missing. And we did, was it an amphitheater sign we saw that
That we have to fix.
it would need to be replaced anyway, so.
Right.
Keep in mind too, these are the big ones that we're putting up. These signs are the big signs you see. We also have a plan to put some smaller signs on our roads, not the main DOT roads.
Right.
But we also have a plan that we'll be able to share with you as well, where we're gonna put smaller signs that have the same look and feel, so we're all consistent
Okay.
with those on some of our roads. But we have to get this approval first before we can do the main signs.
Okay.
Also, keep in mind, if you recall, your funding was your CRA. Your CRA has funded this, so it's already funded in your budget.
So one just additional thing that I would request or ask is that we come up with some kind of policy to maintain these. I don't know how long longevity with Florida Sun, things like that. These are going to get beat up, and I just want to make sure that we're on top of it. It's not coming in and they're old, and everyone's now telling us that they're old. We want to be ahead of it. So as long as we have something in the next 2 years, 3 years, whenever they're supposed to be coming up to be replaced, let's make sure we're on top of that. I don't want to.
I think the technology, the paint, some of the reflective nature of the signage, it's come a long way. Some of the signs in the city predate most of us in this room. So I think you'll be surprised how long you last, but that's a good point and something that we need to make sure that we document the date they went in and, say in 5 years, start taking a look at them.
Definitely.
Well, and Commissioner Nessa, these signs, and one of the reasons we picked this design is these signs are made where we can take the green panel out. If we have to, just to freshen it up, or if a location changes, we can take that insert out, change it, and put it back in.
Nice.
Not have to change the whole sign.
Yeah, you can kind of see that in this. I don't know if I can do this here. You can kind of see it right here, how the piece at the top is a little bit separate.
All right. Okay. Any other questions? Not anybody from the public wish to speak on this matter? Not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for motion to approve resolution number 2022-52.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Velasquez.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Nesta. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously.
And thank you, Pam.
Okay, city council reports. Commissioner Velasquez.
Well, first I, want to welcome Commissioner Kyle Becker. I'd also like to just make a kind of a comment, and that was, I remember when Commissioner Becker and Commissioner Bankston won their election at the same time, they had made a determination of who would be the vice mayor. So is that going to be something that we can do to determine that? Because according to the city charter, it's the most senior member. And I remember they did that right at the first meeting. Do you remember that? Because I do.
Coin flip.
Yeah, I remember
We
you
have to
did the
abide by the
coin
charter.
flip.
No. I'm pulling it. If you give me a second, I'm not sure you're going to pull up the charter. Yeah, it's all right. Let's go. So, actually, it's not in the charter. It's in the code.
You want to just, let
I'll
him
give you a
go
second.
over
It's just scrolling around.
Okay.
All right. So, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I'm trying to.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Velasquez, and we'll come back to it when you find it.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
But I'd appreciate that also. Basically, just, I was away in New York because my oldest son got married, so I got back on election day. And of course, a big congratulations to our former commissioner, who's now our state representative. And we had a couple of events around the city. And of course, Veterans Day at the VFW, I was happy to attend that with my husband, who is a veteran. And then we brought Miss Apopka, introduced Miss Apopka to our city on Saturday. Her name is Sarah Sarver, a beautiful young lady who's representing our city at the next competition for Miss Florida. So she will be at the John Gala celebration tomorrow at the VFW. And she also has a beautiful voice, and she'll be singing the national anthem. And basically, I just wanted to say, I've been part of the Miss Apopka for the last 7, 8 years. So it's been a privilege and an honor to be involved with the committee and certainly being with the Miss Apopka. And when she is in town, I'm kind of her official escort. So if there's any events that you would like to see our Miss Apopka, I think it's important that we get to know who she is. And, you know, it's a big honor for her. She's really excited about representing our city, and she is more than willing to kind of come around and you know, just get to know our city. And so that's something that I want to be able to help her do. Other than that, you know, just want to say welcome to our new Commissioner Becker, who's coming back, who's back. Thank you.
Okay, I have the clarification now.
Okay.
So, the charter provides in section 2.04, subsection F, the vice mayor will be the senior commissioner and shall serve as chair of city council meetings in the absence of the mayor. In the event the senior commissioner declines the vice mayor position, the city council will elect the vice mayor from among the remaining members of the city council. And that, so that's in the charter. Now, the code defines senior commissioner in section 2-23. The senior commissioner is hereby defined to be the commissioner with the largest number of years of service on the council. If there should be two commissioners with the same number of years, the city council, by simple majority, shall select the senior commissioner from these two. So that's probably what occurred. We had an equal number, and then that's when there was the decision. Based on when we reviewed, I think Commissioner Becker has just a few, it's one more month. By 1 month is the senior commissioner as defined in the code. So there's no need for an election unless Commissioner Becker elects not to receive the post of vice mayor, and then therefore the the council votes for a vice mayor from its remaining members.
Well, first of all, before he won the seat, it was an honor that I would have been the senior, but when he won his seat, and I did realize the time served, he deserves the honor to be the vice mayor.
Right. I think, and for clarification, I think when we had the discussion as to what the time frame, that was even before Commissioner Becker, you actually even signed up or even decided to run. So that's why it wasn't an issue, because we didn't think at the point that we inquired and we spoke, you hadn't even decided whether to run for the seat or not. So that issue then changed once you qualified, and then once you prevailed, then it became clear.
And I respect the city charter. It's still an honor that we both are running a very tight race for this, but for me, it would be an honor for him to accept the role of vice mayor.
He's got a month on you.
Yeah, I mean, I may have a month on her, but, you know, we all know up on this council, all the people that have served previously and currently, how much Commissioner Velasquez does in our community. So it doesn't take a title for people to kind of look at you in that same light either. You do so much for this community, and we appreciate that.
Thank you.
But I mean, it's certainly something that I gladly accept. It's an honor.
So we now have our vice mayor.
I didn't mean to.
Nope, that's it.
No. Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to go too long because, I mean, I'm just trying to get my sea legs back here. You know, it's been 8 months off, but, you know, it's weird to sit on that side of the dais and then come back here. And that's the only thing that I'll have in terms of my remarks for the city council reports is I know that was brought up before when this council was discussing an ordinance. There was some frustration that it wasn't fully available online in terms of the full packet language. And that's just one example, but having sat on that side of the fence, I think that we should err on the side of full transparency when it comes to our agenda packets. I fully get that there's ADA compliance issues, but that should be the exception to the rule. I think the general public should have full visibility to see how many housing units are on there, what is it going to look like, how's it going to look like in my backyard, because in actuality, it makes our jobs a little bit easier, hopefully, up here, because they won't come with these kind of misconceived notions about what's actually being considered and contemplated for business up here. So I'm hoping that we can generally agree that let's just put everything out there and then hold back the things that we just know that we can't make ADA compliant, and go forward from that perspective. But that's really all I had, other than the fact of I was with the others at the Veterans ceremony this past Friday, and it's always good to be with a group of veterans who've served our country. There's a lot in this room. I have such admiration. Ms. Apopka did a beautiful job
She
singing
did.
the anthem, and it was great to honor all the folks that have served our country. So thank you.
Mr. Smith.
In my remarks are brief as well. I also attended the Veterans Program, and we always appreciate the service and the commitment that the veterans have made to this country. And welcome back, Commissioner Becker. We're glad to have you back on the council. And there was one other thing. Oh, and this month is National Education Month. And so they're having teach-in at our various schools around the city. And so I was able to go to Phyllis Wheatley on yesterday and do teach-in. And today I was at Apopka Junior High to do teach-in. And tomorrow I'll be at Dream Lake Elementary to do teach-in. So hats off to our educators.
Mr. Nesta.
My comments are not brief. I'll start with welcome to our Vice Mayor, Kyle Becker. If you need me to show you the ropes at all, just let me know. Happy to show you how it's done. But seriously, welcome. Fun addition to the council for sure. If I can ask the fire chief to provide a quick update on our hiring and how that's looking and going for our firefighters, please.
While you're up there, I have one question for you.
It's my time.
I know, but I noticed something missing in the front.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, members of the public. Happy tonight to report some good news. We are today actually finished our first hiring process of the year. Just so to kind of go over some numbers. Currently, we have 10 vacancies with the department. We have 5 firefighters who are finishing their orientation next week and will be placed on shift the first week in December. So that leaves us with 5 remaining vacancies. With the current hiring process we are finishing this week, I'm happy to say that we've made 16 contingent offers and 16 have accepted.
You said they have accepted?
Yes. Yes. So that will obviously go for the remaining 5 vacancies we have now, leave us with 11 of the 18 that we've requested this year and moving forward with. We are immediately starting another process. I know we met with everyone, kind of explained how those processes work. So we're immediately starting another process, which the orientation for this current process will start January 16th. So very positive news. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to fill all 18 positions within this fiscal year, and we're going to continue to work hard to do so. Again, our orientations are very robust. They take time, obviously, to go through that sort of thing. We have targeted some of the positive things we've done. We've targeted Lake Tech, Valencia, and Seminole State Colleges. We're actually going to Seminole in the first week in December. We had to postpone one, Hurricane Nicole, postpone a couple of our different projects moving forward, but we had to postpone one with our HR department set up something for veterans. Actually, we targeted that. It was going to happen at VFW, then they rescheduled it to another location, but we're planning on taking advantage of that as well. So,
And just, because we have such high standards, how many applied and then how many did you?
We had about, I'd say this last round, about 30 apply.
Okay, so it's one, we're not just taking everybody, we're taking the cream of the crop. Yeah, okay.
Awesome. Commissioner Velasquez, you said you had a question?
Just one quick question, and I noticed, and first of all, I appreciate how the fire department takes care of the 9/11 memorial. I realize it's been taken down.
Yes, ma'am.
Will it be returning anytime soon?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's up there.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll take care of that tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
That's it.
We want to protect it.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. And I do appreciate, because I know what it takes to remove it and put it back on. So thank the firefighters who do it, and thank you for taking such good care of it.
Next one is, and thank you, Fire Chief. Diversity, equity, and inclusion update. What's our next kind of endeavor that they're going through, and
we need to get together another meeting. They had a meeting, we're supposed to have had a meeting out at, the Billy Dean building and nobody showed up. So they were to look at folks that we'd like to highlight on the Mead Bottom, the wall on McGee. And so we've got to get regrouped. And so we need to put together another meeting. So haven't scheduled one.
Well, let us know, obviously,
Yep,
as a council,
yep.
how we can help out. We're happy to be there and support you guys in that. It's very important that we're doing that correctly and with a mission that makes sense and is inclusive and meeting the needs there. Next one is, and I made a post about this. I don't know who saw it or didn't. Fire Station 4. I would request that everybody up here on council stop by. I feel that it is the one that is in need of most love. Both interior and exterior. I think it's something that I did speak with staff. They're addressing a lot of my concerns, both aesthetically and what is actually kind of needed. So I want to see kind of what they knock out, and then what I would request is that we allocate some funds to out of the COVID funds to should we need to do a little bit more love to that station. I think it's the one that needs the most, and if we are recruiting more and more, I think that they should be able to look at every station of ours and say, I would want to work there. I want to work there. I want to work there. So I think that would help. And I would just ask that you guys all stop by in some capacity. Just take a look. It needs some love. I know we're talking about this next, but I would prefer to kind of bring it up now. Apopka annexation. I know that's on your next one, but if I can, we're going to be moving that. I requested that. We're moving that to the 29th.
I didn't know.
If we can't talk about that now, please. I know it's his. I just want to, if we can't knock it out now.
That's why it was under my report, Mayor. Commissioner, so we could bring it up with the whole group. So as you know, we canceled the South Apopka annexation workshop. So we need to come up with another date. So we do all here together. We need to figure out what works for all of you when you think that next date should be. I know Commissioner Ness, the 29th works for you, but we need to make sure it works for everybody. So
I'm assuming you're talking November? November 29th?
November, yes, November 29th.
And we can change it. My goal is to have this before December. So I'm definitely flexible to some extent, but rigid otherwise.
My 29th looks good for me.
Everybody good with 29th? Commissioner Smith, you good? Commissioner Velasquez, you good?
I'm good.
Same time and everything like that?
6 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay, 6 o'clock on the 29th. Okay.
All right, very good.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay.
Coming up is this week. It's just, I think it's a really cool run and something that I know we're going to have our APD out to. It's the K9, 9K, and 5K and all that at Jason Dwelly this weekend. And our K9 unit will be out there showcasing some of their talents. So I definitely encourage everyone to get out there. I think it's going to be a really cool event. Having done it last year, and I placed. Let me just reference that on the 9K. I think it's a really cool event. Last one.
Which category did you place in?
Well, that's irrelevant. I placed. I may have been the only one in that category. And Edward, we discussed this, and the orchestra that we have coming up, are we going to add tables to that can be reserved?
We are actually, Rabbit can speak to that if we want to hear more on it, but we are adding tables, and they will be available for purchase.
Okay. If you can't, I just have a couple quick questions, sorry.
Good evening, Radley, Parks and Rec Director.
Yes. So in previous years, we had tables just kind of set up in that back sidewalk there. It doesn't really block any view, but we do have people be able to pay a fee to reserve them, which I think is really cool. It helps to kind of subsidize that cost a little bit that we're paying. I guess, can you speak to it? How many tables we're going to have? What kind of costs we're going to?
Sure. We have ordered 24 tables. We are going to be selling 20 of those for public use. I believe we set the price point at $250 for a table. We have held 4 tables for city purposes, and potentially if we get a sponsor on board to help defer some of that cost, but they will be available. They will be sold through Eventbrite, so stay tuned for some advertising going out on our social media on that.
Perfect. And then how many people per table is that?
It's 10 per table.
10, wow.
Okay, include me in your table.
Definitely. And when is that orchestra event?
So that is 12/10, yes.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy weekend that weekend.
Yes. It's a busy month. All right. Well, that's it for me. See, it wasn't too long. Thank you.
All right, Edward, anything else from you?
Have Bradley, you might, while you're here, you might go ahead and announce your ADA workshop too. Mayor, just
Oh, yeah.
let's go ahead and do that now.
Okay, yep.
Yes, so we're getting ready to announce this as well. We are planning the second round of our ADA Inclusive Playground public input for Saturday, December 3rd from 9 to 11 a.m. That will run at the pavilion behind the amphitheater. And if you do recall that is also the weekend that we're having the Arts in the Park at the amphitheater. So we're hoping to not only advertise to get a lot of input for that park or playground, but also gather some people that are at the park for the event to provide some input.
Yeah, I mean, as it relates to that, and I know that the attendance on the first one was abysmal, right? There wasn't much that showed up. The general public, unless they're close to, the ADA type of considerations that come with a playground like that, they may not have the right feedback. So even if the general public comes and has their opinions, are you still going to consult with people that have done it and know what to look for and creating a playground like that?
Absolutely. We will definitely be reaching out to other agencies that have done these type of playgrounds. And also it's a inclusivity in the play space world is a big thing right now. Right. So a conference I was at a couple weeks ago was a big topic. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the playground companies that do these installs, they have groups dedicated to that, tied with nonprofits and other agencies that make sure we get the playground that we need to hit all those little check boxes.
Right, because ultimately, if we never get general public to come out and participate, we're not going to hold this up. It's going to be more, hey, we tried, but we're going to really just lean on some experts to make this the best inclusive playground that we can build, ADA compliant, and then go forth and conquer.
Absolutely. We definitely want to try and get the public input. There are some family members families that reached out to me after the first one that just missed it, that have some needs in that area that'll definitely be reached out to come participate. But yes, we do want to make sure we have the experts in the play field and in the inclusive areas that can help guide that path as well. So this is the first step. We'll definitely be rolling those agencies in as well to help us. Also in that, we'll be looking for public input on the Northwest Recreation Expansion Project. So we'll be doing multiple things in that.
One of the things we want to do with that, I think we've all, when we talk about the expansion is, what amenities do we want to add? But what we need to do is kind of put dollar amounts to it, because if we've got a finite amount of dollars, okay, do you want a quad of baseball, but it's going to cost you, the skate park, or, so we as a council and collectively with obviously with the help of our constituents, kind of come up, here's how much money. It's kind of like, when you go Christmas shopping, you've got, $300 to spend on your kids, how do we spend that? So what we're going to try to do is Riley's going to work with trying to lay out, what a skate park costs, what a quad costs, what another soccer field costs, what lights are to light up a soccer field.
It's going to be like Park Tycoon.
Yeah.
The video game.
Hey, new video game on the horizon.
Yeah. So that we're making a decision based not in a vacuum, but in a holistic approach. So, we're going to try to work on that and maybe even put it out to the into our newsletter, because I think what happens, we get overloaded with people that have a passion for a certain thing that may or may not live in Apopka. And so you get loaded down with a bunch of emails and phone calls, and when you step back, well, 4 of those people are from Apopka, and the rest of them are from Claremont or Altamont Springs or whatever. So we want to make sure that we're asking our folks what they want, not open it to the wild, wild west.
So do we still have the study that we did before?
Right. Yes.
So we're going to use that?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Before you leave, first of all, thank you for responding to the residents who had some concerns regarding the amphitheater. Do you want to speak to that we're kind of adjusting the time?
Yeah, so we've reviewed, spoke with Edward, spoke with some of my staff, and moving forward with these events that are coming in on Sundays in particular, we're looking at moving that end time up to about 9 o'clock. Again, just to be a good neighbor, for our surrounding communities, but still give that opportunity to have those Sunday events occurring. So we'll start there, and we're always evaluating and observing what's going on at the amphitheater, and find that balance of community versus event.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, Michael?
All right, a brief two items. As I referenced earlier, we have received a estimated total amounts from the state of Florida for the opioid litigation amounts. So without further ado, I've broken it down individually based on the litigation. So the first one was distributors, as the state calls things, of various pharmaceutical distributors. From that fund, the city will be receiving $7,121.18. As part of the Janssen settlement, the city will be receiving $7,421.94. As a result of its settlement with Teva Pharmaceuticals, the city will be receiving $4,705.86. With part of the Allergan pharmaceutical settlement, the share to the city is $698.62. The city's share in the CVS settlement is $327.29. The city's share in the Walgreens litigation is $473.11. And the most recent one, which is the settlement form to be executed tonight, is the Walmart litigation. And in that one, the city's share is $27,405.49. The monies have to be tied to specific uses that the state has outlined. Some of them are either for treatment programs or prevention programs. And then it's an extensive and exhaustive list. I'm not going to go into those details now as to what where you qualify there. But at that point, it's something that I can sit down then with our police department in order to go over where we want to allocate some of these funds for either for treatment or for prevention. In addition, as part of these settlements, there's also some of these pharmaceuticals providers will be providing free of charge to the police department Narcan to help with calls for overdoses. They'll have those with them, and they'll be supplied to the cities free of charge. So that's the overall amount. I think the overall estimate that the city in total will be receiving is probably in the ballpark between $48,000 plus or minus total to be used for opioid prevention or opioid treatment for the residents of Apopka. That's our share. We're in there with other cities in Orange County. Orange County will also receives a share. The way that the state broke them down, the counties do receive the lion's share, and then it's distributed down on one of the settlements. I think the Walmart settlement actually, of all the cities in Orange County, we actually have a larger percentage of the settlement that goes to Apopka as compared to the other cities in Orange County. The second brief item I emailed to you earlier today. This is in relation to the Southwick Commons litigation. I emailed you copies, except for Commissioner Becker, because you weren't on the commission at that time, so you were not issued a subpoena to appear.
With that, it's funny because when I looked at the witness list, I'm listed as a witness, but it says address unknown. I was like, I'm going to keep it that way.
No, and they did not supply. They did not supply us with a subpoena. Now the subpoena is they're subpoenaing just to be witnesses at the trial. The trial is actually scheduled on Monday. Our counsel is going to be preparing motions for protective order to try to not have you testify. Namely, the reason is there really isn't any additional information or subject matter that you as commissioners can provide to the litigation that hasn't already been provided through depositions. We've already had one deposition yesterday. A second deposition is going to be held tomorrow. I will be in attendance with our co-counsel. Just if you have any availability issues or questions, I've already actually spoken to former Commissioner Bankston, who was also subpoenaed. Please get a hold of me tomorrow morning. I will be in the deposition tomorrow morning, but I hope to be back. The deposition lasts as long as our last one. I should be back by noon to get a hold of me to let me know if there's going to be issues with your availability that I can then refer to our counsel, who will then file the appropriate steps to alleviate your obligation to appear at the trial.
Do you anticipate me being subpoenaed on this one? Because obviously the person being deposed tomorrow was not on council when this matter was resolved, so.
No, but the person who's being deposed tomorrow was on the council when the original development agreement was executed. So that's the nature and those original negotiations. So that's what I expect the nature of the testimony to be.
Okay.
Any other questions for Michael? Thank you, Michael. Last up, Mayor's report, just a couple of things. Obviously, great Veterans Day program here at the VFW. I mean, they improvised. We had a schedule for Kitland Nelson Park, but didn't know how the weather was going to hold out, so moved it to the VFW and still had a good turnout. We've got the John Land Gala is tomorrow night at is it 5:30? Edward?
Yes, that's correct.
5:30, so that'll be at the VFW. We have a table for those that want to come. I think there's still seats available if anybody else from the public would like to come. Want to bring up, Pam and I went today to the CFX, the technical committee, and we got unanimous approval for our land swap with CFX. And they were really complimentary of our birding park and, working together with the city. So it's great to be over there and continue to work with the CFX and how we can both benefit from that mutual relationship. So thank you, Pam. State of the City is Friday morning, 8 o'clock at the VFW. Still, I think they've got seats available. Just need to talk to the chamber, their team over there. And then last but not least, kind of neat, we've got 2 youth groups coming, I think on Friday. One, they're going to be painting the old gym. It's been needing a couple of coats of paint for a long time. So they're one group's going to be painting the gym. We got like 40 kids there, and then we got 40 kids going to help Radley out at Camp Weewa clean up, from Ian and Nicole. And so we're excited to have youth out there supporting their community, and it's great to see them, with their civic involvement. So with that, I'm sorry, Commissioner Smith.
No, I was going to ask. They're having that school dedication on Friday at 9 o'clock. Are we going to be able to?
Yeah, we'll be right on it.
All right. Okay.
I told them we're going to be maybe a minute
A
or
little
two
late.
late.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Thank you.